the right level. I have everything to lose and nothing to gain by making this video. In fact, I didn't want to make this video, and yet when everything that I stand for, everything that I work for is getting crushed, it is my duty as a free and independent reefer on YouTube to speak about those problems. What you're going to hear, what you're going to see is not pleasing, but it's something that must be said. The question is, how did we arrive to a point that I have to say this? And for all those reasons, I just needed like one clip to convince you, and yet I give you like hundreds of clips. It's in our best interest for the Reef, for the American population, to boycott American product. There is plenty of alternative. Find your local alternative. If you care about Reef, if you care about human rights, boycott American product. Yeah, welcome to part 1. Sorry. Hi, my name is Nicolas Marion from Canada, Montreal. I'm known as Aqua Splendor, probably the only independent reef curator in the world, unfortunately. So I'm still working on some different projects. By the way, like if you don't see videos on my YouTube channel, it's not that I'm not making videos, it's just like I do not publish them. And I will publish my videos once I fulfill one of my promises, which is taking me a lot of time because I told myself that I will make a difference in the reef community, but making a true reef difference, it takes some time. So meanwhile, I want to stay in the shadow, and if there's something very extraordinary that needs my attention, that I need to say, I will do it. And these videos are like those exceptions, because what's going on in the world is just not acceptable, and I have to speak, and I can speak freely because I have no string attached to me. I can say whatever, almost whatever that I want.
I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago.
Tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell cars into the United States. The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell lumber or anything else into the United States. The United States has been a laughingstock for years and years. If we had a president that knew what they were doing, and we had a lot of them very bad on trade.
Today, I'm announcing a worldwide boycott on all the American product. I can't believe that I'm saying this, like it wasn't like in my list agenda, like to, oh yeah, I'm gonna create a video about boycott. Like never I thought I will make this kind of video, but the situation is so bad that I have to speak about this. And all those years, I avoided to be linked to any company. I avoided to be sponsored by a company, and I avoided any conflict of interest. So I always have the heart of the reef, the animals first, foremost, before the human also first. There's plenty of alternative when you want to create a aquarium reef. There's product for like in Europe, you have Asian, you have Australia, like there's plenty of alternative. So make sure to check in the comments below. I will post all the text, all the company, depending on your area, which took me a little bit of time to do. But you have to understand why I'm creating this boycott. You have to understand the motivation that I have in order to make this boycott.
You said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. Why are we supporting a country, 200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. The reason they don't pay much is they assume that we're going to protect them. That's not an assumption they can make, because why are we protecting another country?
He looks forward to watching the game tonight, and we look forward to the United States beating our soon-to-be 51st state, Canada.
For those who are my Patreon, they saw my 10 videos of my depression series of the reefing world. There's like different subjects that I wish the reef community will be better at. But what I say in those videos that when I created my YouTube channel, I put 3 rules that I should follow at all time. These were my pillar of my channel. The first rule is I should never abuse the animal in any way, shape or form. Obviously, you can think of like having a fish and squeezing, like killing it right away. This is like an obvious one. I should never do that, but this is obvious. But there's always some less obvious stuff. For example, buying an animal just to make a video, just in order to make the views. This is another type of form of animal abuse, whatever you do after with the animals. When you buy an animal, it's for your life, for the life of this animal. It's your responsibility to take care of this animal for the rest of your life. This should be in the core of all people, and I wish more influencers will understand this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that watch videos where influencers abuse the animal, so they will keep doing this because people encourage the animal abuse. So this is something that really... The second rule is at all time I should respect the intelligence of the viewer, of my audience. It's not because the viewer, the audience, that is not aware of information that I should take advantage of this. I've seen, for example, some people that are trying to sell product in a very deceive way. I've seen also some people that try to educate, but they give the wrong information because they are not doing their proper research, because they are extremely encouraged to create videos based on the views, and they want to pump those videos non-stop. So I did my best to avoid this, so at all time respect the intelligence of the viewer. The last rule was money should never dictate the way that I create my content. I should never take advantage of like sponsor just in order to create videos. I should not profit the sponsor and stuff like this to create my content. I should not use the sponsor to do a trip somewhere around the world to create my content. So stuff like this. Sometimes it can be okay, but you must at all time, if money is part of a deal, you must at all time declare and respect the viewer. Declare what the intention, also something that people do not understand. So it's not just saying, oh, we are sponsored by X company. You have to tell what is the deal with that. So that's something that I wanted to do and I respected during all those years.
There is an interdependency between the US and Canada. But when we hear 25% tariffs, it's an existential threat, because this would account on hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada being lost and higher unemployment rate coming from our best friend and best ally. So we have experience dealing with President Trump. We went through the renegotiation of NAFTA, which is called the USMCA. What we know is when President Trump talks, you have to listen, and you have to make sure that you are abiding by what he's saying, in the sense that you have to take him seriously. But what President Trump respects is strength. So from the moment that we were imposed 25% tariffs based on the fact that there was a fentanyl crisis in the US coming from Canada, let's go back on facts, 1% of fentanyl in the US comes from Canada, 1% of illegal migrants in the US come from Canada. So we had a very strong border plan. We made sure to engage with the Trump administration. We presented how we would make sure that the border would be secure. We had many allies in the Republican Party, many allies, of course, with the Democrats. And ultimately, what made a big, big change is when we said, you know what? $155 billion worth of tariffs against the US. And you saw the US markets tanking, and you saw also potentially the price of gas going up. So my point to all of you is, we're the canary in the coal mine. If the US administration is doing that to Canada, you're next. And we need to work together on this.
So you must think the Americans have broken international law.
I'm just saying that in order to respect international law, you don't threaten your neighbors by invasion.
Now, turn out when I was doing all those rules, I became an independent reefer on the YouTube community, maybe Instagram also. That was not on my list, to be honest. Like I never thought I would become like an independent, but this situation just arrived on its own. But that comes also with responsibility. When you're the only person that is willing to go against the reefers, when it's the best interest for the coals, but it's not the best interest for the reefers, I have no shame of doing this. I will have no hesitation. If I have to say we should ban all the koalas, I will do it. I don't care, animals will always come first. So those were my rules when I created my channel, and I took that very seriously.
And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the US, just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state.
For the next couple videos, I'm going to talk about a lot of America. And I want to be clear, at no point in my videos I want to hurt American. Like, I have no intention to doing so, but I have to say what I have to say because it's in the best interest of the American population. And honestly, like, I love American, like, don't get me wrong. And when I created my YouTube channel, I did my best to be an international reefer, and I kind of like achieved this with one exception: the American people, the American reefers. They represent 30% of the views. So I should take that very seriously, right? But I never did my stuff for the views. So I distance myself about this kind of statistics. So even if it will hurt a little bit the America with my boycott, it's in their best interest, and they have to be aware because there's a lot of stuff going on that is just not acceptable. And Americans are the best reefers when it comes to marketing, when it comes to having a company. Like when I made my work, like to create the list of all the companies, I was, oh my God, like there are so many reefing companies that are coming from America. I was amazed. They're really good at marketing, like promoting and consuming product. Like there's nothing that comes even close to American people when it comes to consuming product. They create a economy on their own about that, and the hobby is very popular, probably because of them. Like there's also some YouTube channel that I really love. Like for example, the Coral Morphologic channel. Like he makes like the art, makes the music, makes some fashion. Like for me, it's like freaking amazing. They are also like so good. Like I was talking about selling product. Like you know they're that good when they are selling coralline algae in bottle. Like I'm not freaking kidding. Like there's people, like for you watching internationally, like I'm not kidding, like this kind of product really exists. So they created coralline algae for the reefers when you have already the coralline algae on the plugs and everything, which is just freaking insane. It's like selling ice to Inuits. Like, you know, they are really good seller when they are able to sell ice to Inuits. Like, well, with the climate change, maybe it's a good thing. So they are good at marketing. They're good at producing stuff. So there's no equivalent to this. So at no point I want to make sure that it may be perceived that I hate America. Like I talk to American all the time. They're my neighbor, my family. They are always like in my bubble. So at no point like I want to make you think that I hate America, which is not the case at all. But there's like a percentage of American population that is very brainwashed.
Nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus. Many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office. And you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because there's a reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one.
Since the creation of my country, Canada always has been a good neighbor to the American people, always, without any exception. So right now, when I hear every single week, almost every single day, the threat that their dictator are doing to my country to try to annex my country, I take that very seriously. Like, this is not a joke anymore. This is very serious threat. A little history for the people who forget about the school, which is important to stay at school for education. In 1812, Americans tried to annex Canada with the military power. So that was their first try, which they failed. And we had a good relationship for all those years since. We have always been fair, like maybe there's some business stuff, like maybe here and there, but that's just fine. And we always been respectful. In over 200 years, we never seen such reaction with the Führer that they have, their dictator, Mr. Krasnov.
Some of these agreements, I'd read them at night and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this? So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make up a lot of territory. It's my great honor to announce that we have successfully completed negotiations on a brand new deal to terminate and replace NAFTA.
200 years ago, they tried with military power and they failed. Thank you for the European, thank you for the British for the help. Now, back in 2025, more than 210 years later, they are trying with the economy to annex my country. They are trying to collapse the economy of Canada, and they will fail. This is just like a stupid plan for trying to capture a country. You just create more anger against the American. It's just a stupid plan.
I now would like to talk to the American people, to our American friends. I want you to remember this. Canada is your best friend, best neighbor, and best ally. Many of us have family on both sides of the border. Canada is also America's best and biggest customer. We buy more American goods than the UK, France, China, and Japan altogether. Together, we have spent generations building a relationship between our countries that is the envy of the world. Canada is not the one driving up the cost of your groceries or of your gasoline or any of your construction. Canada is not the one putting your jobs at risk. Canada is not the one that is ultimately starting this war. President Trump's tariffs against you are causing that. And there are no winners in a trade war. American friends, help us help you. Please help us end these tariffs as quickly as possible. And please talk to your elected representatives at the federal, at the state and municipal level. Please talk to your governors, to your senators, to your House representatives, and to your mayors. Send the message to the White House. Working together, Canada and the U.S. have built a strong enough economy, and working together, we can bring down inflation and bring stability to the markets.
Economic war that this psycho started. It started with the drugs between Canada to America. So he said there was like a big fentanyl drugs going on. Canada need to restrain the border. Meanwhile, we're gonna put like some tariff in the Canadian product. Just to give you like some perspective, like in 2024, there's about 20 kilo of fentanyl drugs between Canada to America that have been seized. 20 kilo of fentanyl drugs. Think about it. Like this is like the equivalent of like just one guy, maybe in his apartment, like not me. And between, to give you some scale perspective, between the Mexico and America, there's 9,600 kilo that has been seized. So we can understand the disproportion of this. Like there's no drug, like he's saying. He's trying to find excuse. Meanwhile, between America to Canada, the Canadians have seized, like just a few months ago, 830 something kilo, I think, of cocaine. We never started an economic war on that. Like this is just stupid. And to give you even more, I think it was in 2024, the statistic, I think in Ontario, when there was like crimes in Canada, 80% of the guns, of the illegal guns, came from America. So sometimes it's good to just put the fact in the face of people. So I just wanted to be clear on that, and do not believe what that orange juice is telling you. He's trying to help his friend, his oligarchic friend.
And we want to get along with everybody, but you know, they have to, it takes two to tango.
But Trump's comments are part of a broader push for U.S. expansionism. In addition to questioning Canadian sovereignty, he called for the Gulf of Mexico to be renamed the Gulf of America. He wants to annex Greenland, the sovereign Danish territory, and take control of the Panama Canal. Trump refusing to rule out using military force to do so.
I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
One difference that I've seen between the Canadian and the American when it comes to the media, the way that the news, the information is received to the public, there's a huge culture difference right there. And any Canadian can tell you this, because we see the news from the American side, because we're a neighbor, we can see each other's. So we're often we can see those news, we are aware of what the American are being told. And the way that the information is spread to the public is unfortunately very often to divide the people. It's shared in a way that it will create like a camp between left and right, blue and red, which is very unfortunate, because the truth and the real world is always a little bit of a gray zone, and it needs a little bit of explanation. And unfortunately, the news have a very limited times, and uneducated people need to receive the news in a very easy manner that is absorbed for them to understand also. And one way to make this happen is sometimes to divide the people.
Does this administration still consider Canada to be a close ally of the United States?
Well, I think Canada is a neighbor. They are a partner. They have always been an ally. Perhaps they are becoming a competitor now. But as the president also laid out in his Truth Social post today, he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America.
I'm going to say this at risk of my job, Kelly, but what President Trump is doing is insane. It is absolutely insane. It is about the 8th reason we've had for the tariffs. And now he's saying he's putting 50% tariffs on Canada unless they agree to become the 51st state. That is insane. There is just no other way of describing it. And the trouble, Kelly, is that it shows there are no bounds around President Trump. This is very different from the first administration, where there were people around him who seemed to, I don't know what the word is, but smooth over some of the edges now. And the other thing that's not talked about, Kelly, is what's going on within the administration in terms of how they're treating the Constitution and laws. I think all of that is bad for the attraction of capital. And the gentleman from Bridgewater is 100% right. We need massive amounts of capital if we want to fund our deficits, pay for the things we want to pay for, sell our bonds, and have high stock prices. And it seems as if this administration is doing everything it can to chase foreign capital away.
Now, something that really worries me right now is the American government is currently in a shifting towards another type of government. What was previously a full democracy, sort of, there's like plenty of different democracy, but right now democracy is not really on the priority list of their leader. And you can say there's like different type of government. It's not one type in particular. You can have multiple type of government at the same time. So sometimes like the truth, it can be like a multiple things at the same time. So I can think of, for example, 5 different type of government that is ongoing towards 2. You have the autocracy. By the way, I'm gonna put like the text over there so you can read what those words mean. So autocracy, a authoritarian type of government, a dictatorial type of government, a kleptocracy government, which I didn't know previously. Thanks, Bernie. And then you have the most obvious one, the oligarchy type of government. And this kind of shifting towards this type of government can create spark, can create idea for other people for around the world, and that is something that I'm really worried about, because we're being like in a very peaceful times in our lifetime. It's been really peaceful, and that's because of the type of government that we have, and the population is respected. The wish of the population is respected. So that kind of shifting can happen to Canada. It could happen to Canada, and it's starting a little bit, because the right wing, the extreme right wing, they take from those ideology, and it spread around my country also, and around other country around the world. It's extremely dangerous.
Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd ask my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do.
So we all know that the American population is getting into like a propaganda. They are getting manipulated one way or the other. But let me ask you one question. Do you find this is normal that a government own media? By own, I mean it's their property. When you become aware that, like for example, the Washington Post, the TikTok, they are trying to buy TikTok with the public money. They own Truth Social, they own Twitter, X, whatever. And then you have also the stuff like Facebook, and you have like a Google, that they have to play with the government. Whatever the government say, they will apply it, because they work in the fear of losing, like especially those last two, they will lose their power if they don't comply with the government. So they have to play in the fears, even if they don't agree with this, whatever the government is saying. Do you find this is normal?
It's important that we stop talking about defunding or funding CBC, and we talk about a vision and a plan for the future of the CBC. What it could mean for Canadians, especially at a time where we know that our means of communications are controlled in most parts by tech billionaire oligarchs in the United States. It is more relevant than ever in the current context to have and to be able to rely on a public service media. And to not understand that reality shows the lack of understanding of the global context that we're in, and it shows the lack of love for our own country, and for the fact that we need to be able to tell our own stories in our own way. And Radio-Canada CBC will never be controlled by Musk, Zuckerberg, or any other private billionaire tech oligarch.
For those of you that do not fully understand the consequence of a government owning the media, I'm gonna give you some example that happened to me while I was doing these videos. While I was doing some search, I remember some subject that their Führer bring up, and I found those videos easily. 1 week later, I couldn't find those videos. Like, it was super hard to find those exact same videos that it was accessible to me, either from Google or for YouTube. I was doing some search about their president. And the information, the first information that was on top of my list, it was positive information about their president. One, my subject, my very specific subject, the clips that I'm trying to find, has nothing to do with this. So you can see how easily the media, the platform that we use on every day, can be manipulated in order to make the population aware of certain thing and not aware of other things. So they try to bend the truth to their advantage. So it's extremely dangerous because around the world we all use internet, we all use mostly American platform like Google, YouTube, like X has been eliminated by the Canadian court lately, and my city removed X, Twitter, because there's like too much Nazi stuff going on this platform. But around the world, we are using the American product, and they can manipulate also other countries with this. This, when the government control and try to do some propaganda like this, that happened to me while I was doing some search for this video, is just not acceptable.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada.
He had a mandate to lower inflation, lower cost of living, create more jobs, and it's backfired on him. Inflation's going up, jobs will be lost. He's taking more money out of Americans' pockets. For what reason?
Now, something that is very cringy for me is like, how can you trust and respect someone with this kind of mental illness that thing has? For to give you some example, I give you 6 bananas and you give me $20 per month for the next 6 months. And 2 months later, that person say, you know what, I'm gonna rip out this contract, I'm gonna give you like $10 per month instead. How can you trust somebody that doesn't respect his word, the agreement, and do not respect the law when it's not in his favor? He will change the law to make it sure that it's always in his favor. How can you respect somebody like this?
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the primary purpose of this conference.
A constant problem with this agent Krasnov is that he's a pathological liar. He has no ability to say something factual. All his life always been like this. From his teenager to this old man, he has an ability to deform the reality and shape it in a way that fit into his head and only his head. He's a constant liar all the freaking time. He cannot do otherwise. He never live otherwise.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security. And I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe.
With this economic war that nobody asked for, it revealed a major flaw in the Canadian business. Something that I've noticed while I did my search and I did some data is that less than 2% of the product, of the reefing product that is being sold in Canada is Canadian. Less than 2% is freaking crazy number. We have been respectful with the American for so long. We buy all the American product. We heavily rely on them. This cannot continue, unfortunately, with the behavior of the American people and their Führer. We need to create Canadian product. Meanwhile, please go support some European also country. You can create a full Reef aquarium in Canada with the all our European product. It's easy. It's just that we have been really, as Canadian, complacent with the America, and I've seen some distributor. You need to change your distributing catalog because this is not going to continue, unfortunately. There's like a big line right now, and it will last for a very long time, for a couple of years, before the things come back to normal. Unfortunately, like even if you're like a pro Krasnov, you cannot buy American product in Canada because of the freaking tariff that make absolutely no sense. So we're gonna have to rely on other countries for now. So please, if you're Canadian, start to make a company. I cannot make a company because I have to stay independent, unfortunately, and I wish I could do. But please, as Canadian, create company. You can create a lot of product, but in the reef business, even if the reefing world is small, it is possible to have some business there. You just need to find the right people.
Not the American people. It's not even the Republicans I speak to. And behind closed doors, all of them are saying, this is crazy what he's doing. CEOs of the largest Fortune 500 companies are telling him this does not work. Protectionism doesn't work. Do we want a fair deal? Absolutely.
Oh, and by the way, a little side note, when I talk about alternative, when you start to dig a little bit some information, when you try to educate yourself a little bit, you will find some better alternative. And I want to make a little shout out to reefsupply.ca. They don't know that I'm doing this, but they always been fair. So I'm gonna give you some example. You have stuff like, for example, an American company that sell this. In this case, it was like Aqua. You'll start to realize that the stuff is actually super expensive. And sometimes in the reefing community, there's a lot of companies that apply like a reef tax. And Reef Supply never really did that. And they have like their own bulk of supply. And like it's actually cheap, really cheap, and it's good. Like I've been using my tanks. So this was the calcium, and you have stuff like the magnesium like this. So whenever you try to find alternative, you will see that you can actually pay for way less than the usual big company, American company that you see. So if you're Canadian, or even if you're an American, go to reefsupply.ca, because actually buying the magnesium stuff like this is actually cheaper, I think, for you. So if you're Canadian, just go like a buy in bulk, and you start to dig a little bit, and you will find alternative. Just educate yourself. So until the American fix their glowing orange thing, buy Canada and say buy America.
If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. I'm curious why he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have. They don't get charged on foreign companies, they get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary, go ahead.
And you know what's crazy is that the majority of the American population voted for this guy, and they agree with everything that's going on, like everything bad that's going on. They agree with this, like the tariff, the women's right remove. Like it's completely nuts what's going on with the American. So until they fix their government, until they behave correctly, just normally like a human being, boycott American product. And also, to the people who ask me if I still have my Nano, yes, I still have my Nano. I tried to get rid of this Nano for the past 3 years, and we don't have a lot of reefer like in Quebec, so slowly shutting down this project it's take me a lot of time. And also to my Canadian follower, in 2025 we'll have to vote for a government, a federal government, and be careful with the Conservatives because they have the exact same philosophy, they have the same alignment as the right wing in America. Be careful.
The president says that he doesn't like me. He doesn't think that I'm a MAGA guy. I am not.
Everything is broken.
Everything is broken.
Political correctness.
Woke political correctness.
Defeating the radical left.
The radical left.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
They have no common sense. I am not.
If that wasn't enough to boycott America for you, I'm just warming up for the part 2 coming up.
What I said to the secretary is Canada's sovereignty is not up to debate. Period. There's no argument. There's no conversation about it. There's no need to talk about it. You're here. You respect us. You respect our sovereignty. You're in our country. You respect our people. Period.